thank you for the opportunity to address the conference after only 3 weeks in role. So it is a little bit early to be laying out my stall as the new MD, but certainly I think it's a great opportunity to actually start to provoke the debate that we want to continue over the next few years. As Neville mentioned, I've had 28 years working in automotive test, development and demonstration. And actually, the tenet throughout that 28 years has been on reducing emissions. Initially, the legislated emissions, and I see some of my colleagues here that I've worked on hydrocarbon and CO reduction, more latterly through particulates and non-regulated emissions. And clearly, for the last 10, 15 years, CO2 reduction has been the main focus. So that's really where I come from, and I hope that gives me a right, if you like, to stand here in front of you. Certainly, I jumped at the chance to lead the organisation, the LowCVP, forward through its next 10 years, having worked very closely with the team here over the 10 years since the inception in 2003, 2002. And I think it is a very exciting time. We heard today about this being a tipping point, a really transitional point for both us as an organisation. And I think moving to maturity not only talks about the market, but it actually talks and appeals to me in terms of the organisation of the LowCVP as well. So in our first 10 years, of which, as Neville says, I've been a key and strong supporter, it was really about creating supply opportunities. And I think the question we asked at the outset was, is the industry engaged, the automotive industry and the supply chain industry engaged in low carbon agenda? I think we've heard very clearly and very eloquently that yes, they absolutely are engaged. And though I hope that we have been a part of that engagement. The LowCVP has been working with industry and government to really encourage, promote and create the opportunities for those low carbon vehicles and fuels. We've been building relationships with the new stakeholders in this market. When we set out our stall in 2003, there was no OLEV, there was no TSB, there was no Cenex. So all of these new organisations, the Automotive Council, have formed a part and play a key role in the progression of this industry. And I hope we have been able to build relationships and support and engage with all these organisations as we move the agenda forward. And we've seen some very significant opportunities that have been created. Incentives such as the Green Bus Fund, which has been very successful. Demonstration activities, the recent low-carbon truck demonstration, but there have been a number of ultra-low-carbon demonstration activities, really provide the opportunity to put those technologies on the road in low volumes. We've been able to look at the taxation regime, identifying CO2 and embedding CO2 into the thinking around taxation. A lot of it has been about providing information, and I was very pleased to see Darren highlight the labelling. Of course, you're all aware that the labelling, the initiative around vehicle labelling came out of work within the LowCVP over a number of years, and that's been very successfully taken up both by the OEMs and the new car industry, and now more recently by the used car industry as well. We've also been providing innovation opportunities through our technology challenges and advice through our best principles for advertising and indeed some of the certification standards for sustainable fuels that have been a key part of our activity over many years. But I think we've heard already that mobility, and I like to refer to it as the oil in the engine of the economy. I am an engineer, an automotive engineer by trade, so the analogy appealed to me even if it doesn't to anyone else. But it is critical to our success. Mobility is absolutely key to the success of the economy. And therefore, low-carbon mobility is really an absolute imperative. I am very pleased to say that the carbon plan, and I've sat and studied that, but that was published in December. And to me, it really is a demonstration and a key stake in the ground, very similar to the Powering Future Vehicles strategy that was the inception of the Low Carbon Vehicle Partnership 10 years ago. It's a cross-governmental document that really sets out our stall, and it does provide us with a clear vision and a clear challenge for the future. For us within road transport, the challenge is absolutely clear that we need to be almost completely decarbonised by 2050, and that's no mean feat, as I'm sure everyone here agrees. the fourth carbon budget that's been mentioned already is absolutely a critical period. That period in the 2020s is really one of the key areas where there's a lot of uncertainty, and we've got an awful lot of action to take now in order to deliver on the demands that we have during that period. And the Low Carbon Vehicle Partnership is the cross-industry stakeholder partnership that was established and is here to provide the forum to lead the policy developments that will enable us to deliver on that fourth carbon budget and ultimately on the carbon plan. Our partnership over the 10 years of existence has grown, and we've actually engaged with a wide range of stakeholders. And just to illustrate that, we've spoken about the automotive industry and their work and their very successful work in terms of providing lower carbon vehicles and working with the government and under the Auto Council. The petrochem industry and the biofuel and energy providers, renewable energy providers, again working within their industry to look at how they can decarbonise their activity. We also have amongst our members a wide range of the operators, and this is a key area for our focus going forward. People like the BVRLA, the RHA, the Freight Transport Association, people like the AA and the RAC and the Institute of Advanced Motorists, all representing those end users of the vehicles that the industry is so keen to provide into the market. And very importantly, we have our government and our NGO members. Membership from DFT and OLEV, but also engagement through BIS, and I'm pleased to say HM Treasury and DEC are here today as well. We also have some of the NGOs and on our board, Doug Parr from Greenpeace and a number of others. And I think Michael this morning spoke about we mustn't have a battle between the green agenda and the economic and industrial agenda. The LowCVP is absolutely about bringing these people together with potentially disparate perspectives and providing a forum where we can have a healthy, open debate and carve out the consensus going forward. We've spoken already and we've seen the work, the great work, in my view, carried out by the Automotive Council and the industry to try and build consensus within their niche areas, within the industry, the consensus around what the technologies will be for the vehicles of the future, what the technologies for the heavy-duty vehicles of the future will be, and indeed for the supply chain. There are some notable gaps, in my opinion, in terms of our road mapping for the future. What is going to be the fuel of the future? It's a debate that's raging now. What is the biofuel concentration, the biofuel percentage? What's the energy contribution from the electricity market? And how do we actually meet the requirements that face us, the very clear and present requirements for the Renewable Energy Directive that are facing us in the very near future? And I don't think we've really got a clear roadmap of how that's going to be achieved within the transport sector yet. And that's to say nothing of how we deliver those fuels to the people who need to use them. If we have a multitude of biofuel grades, how are they going to be delivered to the public and enable the public to actually make the right choice about the fuel they wish to use, and indeed to have the manufacturers provide the vehicles compatible with those fuels? So I think there are gaps in our road mapping that are a clear area where LowCVP can contribute and really help define the agenda going forward. In preparing for this activity, I actually, and we'll hear later from Justine Greening, I'm very pleased that she's able to join us later on, but in preparing for this, I read through her presentation to the Intelligent Transport group 10 days ago. And many of the words there rang absolutely true and really resonated with me around the low carbon agenda. And I think one of the key things is that intelligent transport does start with intelligent choices of the technology to use. And what we see at the moment is a complexity, a growing complexity in those choices, and a real challenge for the users in making the right choice at the right time. And part of our activity is in providing a framework to provide information to the end user about what his direction should be, where his choices should be placed in terms of the technologies available, the fuels available, the methods providing those, and the renewability of his transport operation. So for our next decade, as I start to lay out the strategy for the organisation, I think I want to firstly embed into our activity a couple of key themes. It is about communication across the very disparate and very exciting groups of people that we have as membership within the LowCVP. It is also about commitment. Commitment from industry that we're seeing, and commitment from governments. Commitment for the carbon plan and stability in some of the incentives and the trajectories that they want to see. It's also about increasing the user understanding to make the right choice. That's a key area for our focus. It's for us to review and demystify the future fuel options that will face us over the next 10 years. It's clearly an opportunity to build the low-carbon heavy-duty vehicle market, which to date has not seen the same level of uptake and same level of technology introduced as the passenger car market, despite it being available from a range of the manufacturers in the LowCVP. It is about supporting the growth of the UK SME industry into the automotive supply chain and feeding new initiatives and new innovations into the established players. It is about developing the roadmap for the low-carbon fuels and the infrastructure to provide them. And it's about creating a long-term view on the debates on CO2 and life cycle assessment that we've started to touch on in some of our earlier work and were mentioned by Darren this morning. So as we move to maturity of the markets, I'd like to change the vernacular a little bit. Today's conference, the focus on fleets, fuels, heavy-duty vehicles and measurement, does give us a highlight of the challenges that we face, but also hopefully celebrates a lot of the successes that we've secured. The carbon plan gives us a long-term vision for the future. Our task now, as a membership organisation, is to develop clear policy and support frameworks to create that market and to move those vehicles into a mature, sustainable market. Our job is to promote intelligent technology choices based on solid information delivered through our members, collaboration and partnership. And lastly, I will mention the new vernacular. And I think I'm very supportive that Darren did. I went to a recent presentation by the Renewable Energy Group, and they spoke about the initiatives they'd taken as being equivalent of removing 2 million cars from the roads of the UK. I think it's time for us to change that vernacular and to talk about putting 2 million low-carbon cars or ultra-low-carbon cars on the roads of the UK, or by putting 50,000 ultra-low-carbon trucks and buses on the roads of the UK, or introducing a percentage of biofuel and renewable energy, a greater percentage into the UK transport energy demand. It's talking about the positives that we are doing and taking and making as an industry, rather than the battle of removing cars from our mobility society. Thank you very much.